Go live, go live. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh man, it is 8 a.m. Central Standard Time on Monday, the 31st of March. We are finishing Q1 today. Putting in the books right around the corner from tax time, and I haven't technically started. I mean, I guess I kind of have, but a couple of weekends from now, it'll be tax time. I always put it off to the last minute because I always have to pay taxes. And I'd rather have my money making me a little bit of money. But there we go. How was your weekend? Mine was super productive and exhausting. Ugh. Super productive and all. It's awful. Exhausting. I wrote a ton of code this weekend, and I'm seeing the light at the end of my project. It's not here yet. It's not here yet, but I see the light. And, when you get close to the end of the project, that's when, you get that momentum back again, especially if you've been working on it for 6 months like I have on this. And you get that momentum going, and you're like, I can put this thing behind me. I can almost finish it. But then you're just in that last bit of like, you can see it working, but man, everything there's just a little bug everywhere. It's like you see the promise of it. It's 95% there, but all these little things that are just annoying. You're like, I totally forgot about that. Let me write that on my list. You got these big long lists of bugs you got to work through. Oh, it's the best time. It's the worst time finishing up a project. So that's where my week's going to be. Especially today. I've got a deadline tonight, but we'll get through it. That's what we'll do. If you are new to the stream, my name is Keith, and I am a professional developer. I have been for over 30 years. I started out in the days before the internet, the popular version of the internet. There was an internet when I got started, but most people didn't mess with it at that time. And then the internet came along, and we were off to the races. Through that time, I've done a lot of stuff. I've worked for large companies, worked for small companies, had startups of my own, did a lot of contract work. In that, gathered a lot of experience, some of which can be useful to younger people in the industry and/or new people trying to break into the industry. And as a result, through that time, I've also spent some of my time teaching at the college level, at the boot camp level, at the seminar level. Did a lot of that kind of stuff, right? And that's what I'm doing right now. My day job is to manage a coding school in Austin, Texas, the Austin Coding Academy, where our focus from right now is really on upskilling people already working in tech. We still have some people who are trying to break in, but they're a smaller part of our audience, and my guess is over time that'll be the case too. If I had to lay money, which I'm kind of doing in the way that we've sort of shifted our focus in our school, through most of the modern era, certainly through the last 15 years, where boot camps were really a huge boom, they found a spot in the marketplace because colleges did not put out enough developers. There was a need for programmers, greater need for programmers than there were than there were college students coming out of CS programs, and I think that's going to be shifting. In part because more people are going into CS. I have a kid in college right now who's studying CS, and another one who's graduating this high school this year in about 8 weeks. No. Yeah, about 8 weeks. Holy crap, less than 8 weeks. My son's going to be graduating from high school, and he wants to get a CS degree. So in part, more people are choosing that traditional route through college. And the other reason is I just don't think we're going to need as many programmers. Does that mean AI is going to take away all the jobs? No, of course not. No, it's ridiculous. But um, the work that the programmers will be able to do um, or need to do will be smaller and smaller and more important and more important. There's a lot of work that we do as developers that's kind of tedious stuff, code we've written a bunch of different times before, and it's in some ways busy work. It needs to get done. It's not the most challenging if you've got a number of years of experience, and for the last 50 years, when you had that kind of busy work that was important, needed technical people to do, um, but didn't demand the skill and experience of a senior developer, you handed that off to a junior dev. Um, and that work, and we needed a lot of that. There was a lot of that busy work. That work is going to be less and less because AI is going to be taking more and more of it. So what you're going to have is mid-level developers managing AI and senior-level developers still doing the architecture, doing the hard work, figuring out the problems that haven't been solved before. And as a result, I think for the first time in our history, there's going to be a period where there will be more programmers on the planet than there will be a need for more programmers on the planet. That's never been the case. Um, in the history of computing. So shifts coming, change is coming. We're in the middle of it. I was talking to a friend this weekend, and he was like, he's not laid off. He talked to me about a month and a half ago, and he said he was going to be laid off, and I was like, oh, that sucks, dude. And it's because he's got a remote job and they're doing return to office. And then I just recently talked to him again. I was like, oh, sorry, I heard you got laid off. He said, well, I'm not technically laid off. I put in to have an exception in my job for the remote work. And if they okay it, then I keep my job. If they don't, then yeah, I'm going to be laid off. But there's a process. He's trying to avoid being laid off. And I've been sharing with him. He's a UX guy, so he didn't come at it from a programming standpoint. Maybe came more from a design art standpoint. He's a great developer. I worked with him at Dell for many years, but it's not his passion. Again, he was like one of these people that was smart, could do the job, but his real calling really was never sitting down and writing code. He didn't do a whole lot of writing code in his spare time. It's just not who he is, which is fine. Again, he's made a good living all these years. He's raised a couple of kids. It's been a good career for him. But he said, if I get laid off, I think I'm gonna move away from tech, which is kind of interesting. I couldn't imagine that myself. Like, I'm all in with this stuff, but he's like, I'm kind of far away from where I started. Maybe it's time to redirect, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, that's a long ramble. We do stream Monday through Friday from 8 to 8:30, and the goal of this one, as you've seen on this little scroll here, is to be a place for people who are out looking for a job, who just need a buddy to hang out with while they're getting those job applications out. Get up in the morning, grab a bit of caffeine, settle in, and hit those job postings and get those job apps out. Bright and early. Start your day the way you need to. Get done what you need to get done. All right, so on the stream, I do two things. I check the daily job numbers to get a sense of the trends of what's going on in our industry, and then I also check in a little bit on the news, see kind of if there's a news that's could be helpful to us understanding kind of where things are going. So, for almost 3 years, I've been checking job numbers for JavaScript developers and making these nice charts. And these charts I look at every morning, Monday through Sunday. I don't stream on the weekends, but I get up, I check the job numbers, I look at the latest trends. And what we can see is in the last 7 days, there's been downward pressure. It's just been a rough run, man, for 8 weeks, 10 weeks now. We got chaos and craziness in the news. Businesses are reacting by, putting on hiring freezes and not growing. So the last 7 days, it's a bit of a dip. The last couple of days, it's starting to turn around again. If you look at the last 6 months, you'll see that really it's been flat with this kind of range. And we kind of bottomed out, it looks like, at the bottom of that range. And now we're probably starting to turn around, head back up a little bit again. We've been on this little bit of a roller coaster, up and down, not completely tanking, but not taking off either. And that is super frustrating. Don't like those numbers. Don't like them. If we look at the last year, what we can see is it's been basically flat. But 1 year ago, you could say that there's probably 30 to 35% more job postings coming out every day than there are today. And that is not good. We should be twice the number of job postings that we have right now. And you can't blame business. I like to blame business about a lot of things. I tend to be pretty radical on the scrutinizing of business and business practices. But a capitalist who doesn't trust the monopolistic tendencies of large companies, not a big fan. I tend to be a little critical of them. But can't blame them now. You really can't. Larger forces at work right now are making the business world unfriendly for growth. So, let's see. Numbers aren't great. At some point, I'm hoping we don't have to wait another 3 years to get beyond the craziness that's been here for the last 3 months, but only time will tell. What can we do? We can control the things we can control. And what can we control? We can get up early in the morning, we get some caffeine in us, and we'll get some job applications out. As low as these numbers are, there's still jobs being posted every day. It's your job to get at the top, at the front of the line, get your portfolio in order to catch somebody's eye, and get that phone call, get that interview, and then seal the deal. That's your job. You can control a lot of those things. A lot of those things. All right. The other thing I like to do is check out the news. Hey, let's see what's going on in the news. There's a really nice news feed on LinkedIn that's always got 3 or 4 stories every day that are pertinent to us. Uber, DoorDash want tax-free tips. I saw this over the weekend. This is one of those things where I've never been a fan of Uber. I'm anti-Uber. Which is rare, but when I need a Lyft, I take a Lyft. But DoorDash, I've never used DoorDash. Just not. I don't need that. I don't have time for that. I don't need to be spending money on that. I got a very manicured life that doesn't. This includes me. Like if I had DoorDash, if I used DoorDash and Amazon delivery and all that to like the fullest, I'd literally never leave the house. Like last week, I got in my truck because I had to go to the grocery store, and it had been 7 days since I left the house. Everything that I need in my world is right here. Now my wife, she's got return to office. She has to leave every day. My kids go to school. Yeah, but I'm holding it down here, working from home, and everything I need is right at my fingertips. And I just don't get out. Just don't get out very much. I had a meetup that I was planning on going to on Friday, and the rain was happening, so they didn't technically cancel, but I just didn't want to go. Trying to force myself to do some meetups just to get out of the house. U.S. lawmakers consider legislation exempting some tipped wages from taxes. Tech companies like Uber and DoorDash are pushing for the bill to apply their drivers and delivery workers too. The most recent proposed legislation would allow employees like restaurant servers or casino workers to receive tax-free tips, but independent contractors such as rideshare drivers would not be eligible. Per an industry trade group, 7.3 million people work as app-based contractors. So look, there's a long history, if you've been paying attention to any of this nonsense that Uber's been doing. They've been trying to avoid paying their workers, paying their fair share of taxes, employment taxes, a whole bunch of stuff for years. And they've been, basically successful at using their lobbyists to help. Like, they don't want to hire full-time drivers. They don't want to give them health insurance. They don't want to, pay for employee tax and all that. And as a result, they've been, saying, hey, they're not our employees, they're just independent contractors. And California's fought against them. There have been attempts to kind of rein them in, but they have a lot of money and they have a lot of might and a lot of lobbyists, and they've been pretty successful at avoiding, paying a fair share to their workers and or paying a fair share of their taxes. And screw those guys. Not a fan. But now, they seem to be fighting for their workers. Ooh, their workers shouldn't have to pay taxes on their tips. Oh, we're going to fight for them. We're the good guys. They're not the good guys. I guarantee you, if this passes and DoorDash and Uber drivers get to write off their tips, that they're just going to be like, you know what? We can't really. Uber's like, wait, you guys are making good money on those tips. You're getting tax-free. Well, maybe we're going to have to tighten our belt. We can't pay you as much. It's just a way for them to cut their costs of their expenses, man. I don't trust these guys. I don't believe these guys. Screw those guys. Yeah, do I think that it'd be great if people who get tips, working class people who make less than $40,000 a year, get tax-free tips? Yeah, I mean, in general, the thing about tax-free tips is tips have always been tax-free because you have to report them, and nobody reported them. But now, and that's, for the history of the world in terms of taxing and tips. But now, because all of our tips go through these devices, now they know exactly how much you're getting tipped. So then we start paying taxes on tips. So, giving those low-income workers a bit of a break on the cash money they used to receive is something I'm all for. Somebody who's making $200K a year and getting tips, quote unquote, no, should be means tested or whatever. Tested by the amount of money you make. If you're at an exclusive, boutique, and you're selling products that are $10,000 bags and stuff, and somebody's tipping you $500 a pop, I think you can survive without a break on your tips. But I don't trust Uber. It's just going to be a way to pay their people less. Numbers to watch this week. U.S. labor market will be front and center this week. Hiring expected to show signs of slowing. The non-farm payrolls report is forecast to have risen 140,000 in February, down from 151 in January. According to economists, federal job cuts is while as layoffs in tech and other industries are contributing to the slowdown. Meanwhile, the pay premium that workers who switch jobs are receiving is fading. We're seeing a lot of this. It definitely affects us in tech. Knowledge workers feel a squeeze as reports of white-collar recession mount and the gap in earning between college-educated and non-college educated workers narrow. The New York Times wonders, is knowledge work on a broad decline? Once reliable fields for bookkeeping, coding are feeling the squeeze thanks to cost-cutting and artificial intelligence, while the White House cuts to the university system, grants, and federal payrolls are further shrinking career pathways for degree holders. Yeah, again, as I said at the jump, there's definitely going to be an effect. It's not that AI is going to be replacing mid-level and senior-level developers, bookkeepers, scientists, but a lot of the busy work is going to go away. And that busy work was done by junior employees. And so there just won't be as much entry-level hiring as there was. You know, there's some people that argue that, like, it's also going to unlock more businesses. One second. It's going to unlock more businesses, which over time will mean we'll need more mid-level and senior-level people. But in the short run, there definitely we're seeing disruption, and that's going to continue. That's why upskilling is important. That's what our focus is on my day job. You got to keep learning. You got to keep developing expertise, because the AI is going to be giving lots of mid-level and low-level information, but it doesn't have a whole lot of senior-level information in its training data, so it's just not as going to be helpful there. And it can only help with stuff it's seen in its training data. Okay. How are we doing with that? Okay, we're doing good. OpenAI's funding round has a catch. As it closes to a potential history-making $40 billion funding round, the bounty could come with an important condition. Lead investor SoftBank will reportedly be able to have the funding to $20 billion if OpenAI does not restructure. Excuse me, I'm congested today. Does not restructure into a for-profit company by year's end. The startup's planned for-profit turn faces numerous complications, including regulatory scrutiny and challenges from co-founder. That would be ex-co-founder Elon Musk. Yeah, this has been a problem. They've known this. We've known this for a long time. It's clearly not an easily solvable problem, or it would have been solved already. And again, with the release of their updated, with the release of their updated image model last week, one of the things that we did see is they're still the ones to beat. They got the smartest minds who are making breakthroughs. They're not just making incremental advances. Yes, they are making incremental advances, as well as all of them. But like those big breakthroughs that we need, like they still seem to be leading that pack. But, you know, they made this fatal error. Well, we'll see if it's fatal, but they made this big mistake, which was, you know, starting out as a nonprofit. And they knew it was a problem pretty soon into the life of it. But before everything blew up, they didn't do anything about it because not as much was at risk. And then it all happened so fast. And now there's all this scrutiny. So who knows? You know, who knows what's going to happen. But if that's true, if that rumor's true, $20 billion on the line, they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something. I'm sure a lot of it's going to be lobbying like crazy the the current administration to make sure that their regulatory structure doesn't go after them. If they can kind of deal with that, everything else kind of gets manageable. All right, last story of the day. Gen Z admits to TV binging at work. Many Gen Z employees are streaming shows and movies while working from home, often lying to their bosses about it. In a recent survey, found that 84% of younger remote workers engage in this habit, with 48% admitting to lying to their managers about it. While most use TVs as background noise, many procrastinate on work to finish binge watching and are reluctant to return to office for fear of giving it up. The behavior demonstrates that Gen Z workers are serious about work-life balance. That's your quote? That's your quote? I don't know about that quote. What will I say about this? I this is God, what year is this? Maybe 2011, 2012. It's been a while. I worked for this company, a large company, $400 million a year. Great company, great product. And we worked in the office. And this woman, this other dev, she was a senior dev that worked with her. And she's maybe top 5 of the best devs I've ever worked with in the last 35 years. Like, really, just an ace. Learned a lot from her. And she brought her laptop from home and set it next to her work laptop on her desk in the office and was just non-stop streaming Netflix. Or playing DVDs back then. Now that I think about it. No, it was probably streaming. Netflix. And she just had it on. It was just the, as I said, background noise here. It's just a, comforting sound. And again, it wasn't like it was TV shows that she'd seen before a million times. So it was like, not Friends, but it'd be like that. Like if you're watching Friends for the 47th time and you're just got it on in the background. Managers didn't care because she hit her deadline. She was, again, one of the better devs there. So, it was fine. Me, I cannot do it. Like, again, knowledge work in my world is wrapping your brain around hard concepts, solving problems, and I need I can't have that level of distraction. Like when I do put on music sometimes, but it's always like the instrumental trip hop or EDM, with no lyrics or whatever, just some background something. But no, I can't have any lyrics. I can't have any television shows. If I'm doing the real work, I can't have a YouTube video on. It's just not only distracting. It's just like I can't get to the deep work flow that I need to solve the problem of the day. Not everybody's work is like that, but knowledge workers in general, if you think for a living, I don't see how that works for people. It just doesn't work for me, for sure. All right, we done did it. It's 8:30. Welcome to the end of Q1. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. and we will pick this up. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of better news in terms of job postings today. Hopefully there'll be some break in the craziness that's going on in Washington, which seems to be throwing everything into a tizzy. fingers are crossed, but I don't have a whole lot of hope. Um, but you know what? Again, we're going to control what we can control. And that is getting up every morning, hanging out, getting those job applications out, and getting that job. You can do it. Absolutely. I will see you tomorrow, and we will pick it up for there in 23 hours and 30 minutes. I will be back. Tell your friends. Know anybody who's unemployed? Share the stream with them. We can always use some people to hang out with. Thanks.